had a video that was done last year. This was actually something that was filmed in our office over here. WBT did a heroin epidemic story. And so if it'll load up and play, I'll try it. I'm going to keep it. So I'll keep talking. So blame Adam if it doesn't load. So what you got before you there, council, is I put together 3 pages, just some stuff that's the last 2 pages were all really just an FYI type stuff. And like I told Mr. Daniels, you can't take 5 or 8 or 10 minutes and talk about opioids and Narcan and heroin and the overdoses and the deaths and the things that are taking place not only here in town but across our country in 5 or 10 minutes. So hopefully this is just one spoke of the wheel that brings a little bit of information to you. But so we actually do. I'm going to be quiet.
Overdose deaths in North Carolina have jumped more than 500% in the past 4 years. Tonight we're on your side asking, what do we do about it?
The answer many are now advocating for may fly in the face of everything we thought. The feds and the state have tough laws. Families across our area have tried tough love. Success is still hard to come by. As a result, the push is on for something new. WBTV's Jamie Bull investigates. My wedding ring,
Mary Louise and Ron Huff are victims.
his wedding ring,
Not only of theft, but also addiction. All of those items were taken from their home and sold, not by a stranger, but by their 25-year-old daughter, Katie, to pay for her heroin habit.
When she told me what she was doing, I was like, no. And she said, yeah, she's doing it.
The Huff family story starts like many. Marriage, jobs, 2 kids, suburban living. But then came Katie's teenage years. Fitting in was hard, so was focusing. At 14, she was caught trying to sell her Ritalin. By her early 20s, she was shooting heroin.
One of our friends said, here, you want to try this? I said, yes. And it really cannot do this, but you can stop it.
A non-stop cycle of getting high, getting sick, taking from your own family to buy the next fix.
You see something that you know is worth money, and you go do whatever you have to do to get it.
Her parents haven't pressed charges. They haven't kicked her out of the house. Before you judge, consider their reasons. Tough love comes with a possible outcome a parent would have to live with.
I just figured getting a phone call that they found her dead.
The Huff strategy is quickly becoming the state's,
This is where the magic happens.
largely because of the work done by the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition.
We want to keep people alive long enough so that they can recover.
Tessie Castillo works out of the organization's Raleigh office.
We were considered this tiny radical organization who was helping drug users, and nobody wanted to talk to us. No government agency would touch us.
All that has changed over the past 5 years. Locking people up wasn't working. Heroin use exploded, deaths multiplied. The coalition pushed the state legislature for new ways to combat the epidemic.
It has a lot to do with the fact that this is affecting neighborhoods now where people in power live.
We have 2 guys, it looks like they're over.
North Carolina now has a Good Samaritan 911 law. If witnessing an overdose, you can call for help and not be charged. Also, the anti-overdose drug naloxone is more widely available.
Distributed over 25,000 of these life-saving kits.
And now the push is on for a full-blown needle exchange program in an attempt to cut down on infections, hepatitis C, and HIV.
What we're seeing people doing is scrounging through trash cans to find syringes, picking them up off the ground, sharing them among roommates.
And if they come in for a needle, NC Harm Reduction sees it as another chance to get them into rehab, something Katie has tried.
I don't want to be on it. I despise it.
Hopefully the next attempt will be the one that works for her and her family, tortured by addiction.
I can't help but blame myself that I wasn't watching close enough, that I wasn't doing something.
To say that guilt weighs on a lot of families. We asked the Huffs what they tell other parents. They say pay closer attention to cell phones and internet use, body language as well.
They also say if your child tells you their friends are doing something, pretty good chance they are doing it as well.
Let's hope Katie gets it. I know it's gotta be so hard for parents.
Oh, absolutely,
So I'm not gonna be the guy to say everything you read on the news or see on the news is true, but I will say there's a 90% truth in that story, and a lot of it was filmed in our building next door. That young lady that was on there, if you heard, her mother was saying that she hoped she never got that phone call. So they live here in Indian Trail, part of that was filmed over here. This past Saturday morning at 8:04 a.m. she got that phone call. So that girl is no longer with us. So I say that as I can bring a face to you. Normally I can sit up here and talk about, hey, this person, this person, this person, but I can bring you a face because she's been on TV before. So hopefully that gets some of these numbers across a little bit more in depth. And so death investigation reports are done by our people here in Indian Trail. Anytime that somebody dies and you're not at a medical facility, or you're not being accompanied by a doctor or something. So in 2016, we had 29 death investigations here in town. So far this year, we're at 22. Now, a death investigation can be closed out several different ways. We can determine that it was natural causes, an accident, somebody falls off a roof, gets hit by a car or something during a motor vehicle accident, suicide, overdose, or a result of a criminal act. A homicide, a robbery that turned into a homicide or something like that. So far during the month of August of this year, we've had 4 death investigations in Indian Trail. Of those, 2 are believed to be drug overdose related. That's just in August. So including this young lady that you saw here on August 19th, evidence at that scene indicates that heroin was a drug that was being used that was overdosed on. Obviously, I'm no doctor and I'm not a medical examiner, so until toxicology reports are back, my official word to everybody is that case is still open until the results get back. But I'm no dummy either. And I can tell you if it's raining, you're going to get wet if you stand outside without an umbrella. I can tell you the things that were on that scene out there tell me that that's what their final results going to say. Also on Monday, August the 14th, at 11:14 p.m., deputies went to the home of a 38-year-old male here in town and found him deceased. Evidence of that scene indicated that he had taken oxycodone that he obtained from a dealer and not by a medical prescription. There again, we're still waiting on toxicology, so I can tell you that unofficially, drug-related overdose, and that's just 2 out of 4. Now, going back on that at the same time, that doesn't mean that we've got a 2 out of 4 every month, because there's, overdoses and stuff are not every month that quickly happening. But at the same time, we do see them in waves sometimes. And one of our narcotics sergeants I was talking to yesterday, I said, hey, give me a little bit of insight from some of the people that you're talking to around town that you're dealing with. And he said, what's amazing to him is that people find out that, hey, this person, this person, this person is overdosing on heroin, and they're a heroin user. They start seeking out the source where those people are overdosing from, because apparently to them that's an indicator that they got some good stuff. To me, it would be an indicator that, hey, that's probably not a good thing. But in the state of mind that they're in, they're looking for the highest of the high if they're going to get it. So they're actually tracking who's overdosing, and they're going to that person's dealer to try to get stuff. So we do overdose reports on incidents where we wind up where the person survives. It's not a death investigation report, but it's an overdose report. So if that makes any sense at all, there's 2 different ways for us to report to track this kind of stuff. So 2016, we had 31 overdose investigations initiated here in Indian Trail. So far this year, we're at 19. So there again, keep in mind, this is the person that survives the overdose. So just as a snapshot of some of our most recent ones, on August the 6th at 12:42, deputies went over to Walmart, responded over there for a call for service, found a 26-year-old male unconscious in the bathroom with a needle still in his arm. Narcan was administered, and he was transported to a local hospital. As a side note, this male was arrested for possession of heroin in July of last year at the Taco Bell in Indian Trail, where he was caught in the bathroom by 2 of our deputies and had heroin on him at the time and was also under the influence of other drugs. He's also been previously dealt with by our guys in December of 2015, passed out in the car over in the Sun Valley Business District. It was determined at that time that he had shot up heroin before passing out, and he was arrested at that time for possession of Xanax during that incident. So on July 22nd of this year at 7:57, deputies located a 17-year-old male walking in traffic on Old Monroe Road, down there closer to the entrance of where Brandon Oaks Parkway is. The male was naked and trying to get into passing cars. as they went by. He was transported to the local hospital, obviously feeling the effects of having an overdose on a narcotic. June 20th of this year, 3:43 in the evening, deputies went to a house in Indian Trail and dealt with a 32-year-old male who was unconscious. Evidence at the scene said he had shot up heroin. Narcan was administered. He was revived. He refused further medical assistance and would not agree to be transported to the hospital. You can't make some of these people go. Once they've been revived, they say, I ain't going nowhere. You can't make them, I can't make them go to the hospital. Interestingly enough, that's at 3:43 in the afternoon. We were just out of his house at 6:55 the night before where he overdosed on heroin and had to use Narcan. And he went to the hospital then, so he went to the hospital at 6:55, got out, came home, shot up heroin and overdosed again. So June 19th, let's get it down, June 15th, 12:11 a.m. deputies went to a house of a 33-year-old male here in town. Narcan was administered. He was unconscious. He regained consciousness. Heroin involved in that one. He was transported to a hospital. June 13th, 3:58 p.m., another Walmart incident. Found a male lying in the parking lot. Not only Narcan, but CPR had to be administered on this guy. He comes to and says, I ain't going to the hospital, see y'all later. And gets in the car with his driver. No other narcotics are on him. You just heard about if somebody calls in that there is a overdose, it puts a little bit of a hedge of protection around those involved in that call because we can't criminally charge them. Used to, the old beat on a board with another board theory is that I get there and if I can find any evidence, then I'll get a criminal charge on them. Well, they created that buffer now. They figured out that don't work. Me just putting them in jail does not work. But so it is definitely, like Mr. Daniels, like you asked about, like you mentioned, it's definitely something that, you know, I'm not saying that your town's overridden with it because everywhere is dealing with this. But the injury violence prevention worksheet here, you guys can look over later on. It's got some good stuff statewide about North Carolina. And then on the back here is just a news release that I just captured. It's a recent law that was signed in June of this year. It's the opioid addiction prevention law. It's called STOP, Strengthening Opioid Misuse Prevention Act. And what this did was it actually put some restrictions upon medical providers. You know, if you go in there for the first time to be seen by a doctor, they can't just write you a 30-day prescription anymore. They can give you a 5-day prescription, do a follow-up. But some of the things that we talk about heroin, but you have a lot of other opioids that are out there, most of them being pharmaceutical type. And so they're also being abused, and somewhat at a higher rate, you know, than even what you would think of as an illegal drug, you know, or a illicit drug that you don't find sitting at every CVS and Walgreens or anywhere else. So hopefully that law will put a little bit more of a tightening strength around there too. But I hope that was a little bit of, yes sir.
I just want to publicly thank you. I did in private. Just publicly thank Captain Coble for putting the time to put this information together for us. And one of the reasons why I asked him was I have 2 teenage children, so I'm concerned with public safety. This is part of that, and having information. I feel the better a person is have the knowledge of, the better they can put a stand and maybe see the signs of something happening, they can put a stop to it and not have to get that phone call. So once again, thank you very much.
Yes sir. And just as a public announcement, I've mentioned before, our agency is working with Union County School System where we're traveling around and going to these schools, talking to meet with teachers and also opening up for parents to come out as well. So the first one of those forums or seminars kind of things that they did was about a month ago, and we just heard back from the school administration, and hopefully we'll have the dates and be pushing out on our Facebook page here pretty soon about when those dates are. But I would encourage you, if you got a kid or a teenager, anybody going back and forth to school, as a matter of fact, even if you got somebody in your family that may have had a past history, I've said it up here at this podium before, but the heroin that's out here now is not the same heroin as what was out here 5 and 10 years ago. So if you have somebody that has come through a recovery and slips a little bit and goes back and they think, well, I'm going to shoot up this amount of heroin because that's the amount that I used to shoot up 5 years ago, they'll be dead when we get there. It's not the same stuff as what it used to be. So any of these public forums are open to anybody, so the sheriff encourages anybody to come to it, you know, whether you got a kid in school or not. So. Any other questions? Thank you, guys.
Consent agenda. Daniel said a motion to approve. All in favor? That would be unanimous. Consent agenda approved. There are no public hearings that brings to old business. Item A is to sign
Mayor Council, we did have a series of meetings. It started with having the Monroe group for all the conceptual plans that we still use for that particular development. We did meet with most of council members, and we captured all their comments and input. The only item that we're waiting on right now, we have submitted Wesley Chapel Scouts Road corridor study, and we submitted that to North Carolina DOT to be considered in their Spot 5 funding program. And the reason why we waited before we provide our comments to the Monroe group is because that stretch from Monroe Road all the way to Independence Boulevard will make a big difference to how we're going to react to that development. So that's the only item we're waiting on. As soon as we receive it, we'll provide the Monroe group with a list of our comments and share it with council.
That's it. Any comment? Thank you. That brings us to item C, Old Monroe Road widening project.
Yes, sir. The good news is we reached out to North Carolina DOT. I'm sorry, I keep saying South Carolina DOT. North Carolina DOT, and contacted Scott Cole, which is a representative. He did agree to meet with us. So there will be a public forum soon. We did offer our civic center and anything they need. So they have to go through Raleigh in order to organize that meeting. As soon as we receive the confirmation, we will put it on our website. We'll make sure all of you guys are aware. And we have met with council, and we received any comments from a lot of residents. So the intent is to compile all of them and discuss those in addition to many other stuff, which is the capacity of the roadway, other alternatives that are out there, the impact, the real estate acquisition impact, signalized intersection where we feel that it should replace other intersections. So we are planning on having a list of items to discuss with them during that meeting, and we hope that all of you could attend and share your comments with us. So that's what we're planning on doing.
All right, yes. Karen, I just want to, I believe that you asked a question about the bonds. I believe there were general obligation bonds that had the town had put forth the faith and good credit of the town on that bond. Therefore, it was eligible to be a votable bond and was voted on, as I recall. So it was on the ballot, it was voted on. So that's actually a good question as far as the bonds being something that was already voted on, adding to the street. So I hope that kind of gives you a head start as to the status of those bonds.
Yeah, generally, general obligation bond, it will have a purpose, whether it's for parks or for road improvements, and based on the language of the actual referendum that was passed by the residents, the town could work within that language, but it is not allowed to work outside of the language of the bond. So what I'll do is read the referendum language and speak with bond counsel, and see if there's a mechanism in there that helps with a, just design the road or what the bond money can be used for.
Good.
My question on the bonds would be, if I remember correctly, it was for the widening of the road, which people were overwhelmingly in favor of. I'd be very interested in changing it to a super street would disallow the bonds. That's not what the people voted.
Well, again, we'll read it, look at it, I'll talk about bond counsel and,
But I'm not a lawyer. That's what we pay.
I play one on TV. I will speak with bond counsel and review the language, and I'll be able to get back to council on any more information about that.
Mr. Savoy, thank you.
Yeah, so I think that we should look at a different venue to have that in. I think this room would be too small for the number of people that may potentially show up. So I would recommend, like we've done in the past, is maybe the community college, look and see if we can have a room there to adequately fit the number of people that could potentially be coming for this.
The last meeting we had was for the hotel, I believe.
Yep.
So we just have to get your groups together. time you have homework.
Is that all? New business. Item A, Union County Man and/or Woman of the Year, Mr. Sayer.
Yes, sir, within a short,
Nominating yourself?
I would love to. I want to go ahead and turn it to Mike, because Mike was involved with that, so.
Sure, Patrick and I met with John Ashcraft. He's leading up the nomination period for Union County Man and Woman of the Year. I checked, you are allowed to nominate yourself if you wish, so the deadline is October 16th. And really, they're just looking for people who have led a life of commitment to making Union County a better place, and you're really able to go in whatever direction you feel is best to show that that's what the Man or Woman of the Year nominee has done. We're going to have those nomination forms available at Town Hall tomorrow for anyone who wants to come and pick them up. We have not been given a website yet where you can do that online, but we will have the forms. If you want to come to the town and fill them out, we will make sure that they get to the committee. That will be deciding on that in October. That's all I have on this, unless there's any questions. Thank you.
That brings us to item B, proposed flood hazard determinations for Union County and incorporated areas. Mr. Sayer.
Yes, sir, there was an advertisement recently by FEMA. Simply, they've done a flood study in the area. Union County was part of the study, but engineering has been reviewing the result. We have not seen a lot of impacts. I wanted to share it with council and the audience today, just in case we run into anything, because right now we're doing 3 major studies in the town regarding the floodplain. So I just wanted to bring it before your attention, just to let you know that if we run into anything, that might lead to another study. Simply, that's the reason for reporting the item.
Thank you. That brings us to C, water and sewer line extension, bill of sale, and survey requirements for town hall. Mr. Sadik.
Simply, it's just a requirement by Union County because we have provided town hall with water and sewer, so they required an easement and also to have a bond, and we're trying to accommodate that. We just need to give approval to move forward with that.
Council? Approval to move forward?
Yes. If you really, well, why don't we just give it a consensus?
It's a vote, right?
Yes.
It's a vote.
I'll make
Mr. Cohen's made the motion. All in favor?
Hold on, what am I voting on?
The water and sewer line extension bill.
Everybody's happy with it?
That would be unanimous. Now bring us the newsletter and council corner. Mr. Parks, welcome back.
Thank you. All right, first an update. Everyone should have received their town newsletter in the mail last week. If you have not received the newsletter, we have copies available back here on the table, and we also have more available at the town hall. Come by tomorrow and pick one of those up. But the main thing I wanted to discuss with council is specifically the council corner section. If you're familiar, in December 2015, council voted to add a council corner to every newsletter. Quickly turned from a corner to a page and a half, if you haven't had a chance to see it. We also voted at that time to only do the newsletter quarterly. When we're doing only 4 a year and we have as many meetings and we're voting on everything that we are, this council corner adds up pretty quick. And really all it is just a council approved this, council didn't approve this. It's just a rundown of how you voted. I wanted to bring this back before council and see if there's any interest in possibly moving away from the council corner in exchange for more in-depth stories about maybe the larger items that council approves. Or if you're happy with the council corner, we'll leave it exactly as it is. I've heard some people that enjoy reading all this and see exactly how everyone voted on everything. That is also available on the website under minutes, and when we move into the town hall, you'll be able to listen to audio and watch video of the meetings. So if you like it the way it is, we'll leave it as it is. If you're interested in seeing more stories like what are on the cover of it, we can do that as well. I just wanted to get council's feedback after a year and a half.
Boy, you first.
Yeah, can we just poll it like we do a lot of things? on Facebook
Yeah.
and just ask the residents, and however they decide, let's go that way.
My only concern with polling it online is the main purpose of the newsletter is to reach the people that really aren't on our online page.
Oh, good point.
Mr. Daniels?
If you ask for a vote from me, I would say, what's out there, a page and a half for the council members, I'd rather focus on the town and, give us, some play, but the main focus would be on the town.
And just for instance, one of the things that wasn't able to make it into this, that we cut to be able to fit some of the council corner on the back is we had a preview of the new town employees. And some of the people might be meeting in the field, new planning members, new code enforcement, just to introduce the public to those individuals. So those are the types of things that we would have more space for in the future. But we would lose that, here's everything that was voted on for those that really are interested in, knowing exactly how our council is serving residents.
Why don't we put that online on the town website? So if someone's really interested in how, it's on Granicus, but if they say they don't have Granicus, they're really interested in how I voted, it should be on the town website.
And it is in minutes, but we have spoken with people who say either they don't like to use the website or they don't have access to the website. And we spend about $5,000 a piece on these newsletters to mail them out to 12,000 residents. And one of the reasons we do that is to make sure that we cover everybody. So that is something that we can move online, and when if people can't find it, we can track it down on the website for them. If that's something that we want to do, we're always happy to help people when they call or come to the office. But really, I could go either way on this. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Now you've had a chance to look at it a couple times.
My suggestion would be, Mike, I have a lot of respect for the job that you do, and you do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
You've been in the newspaper business, you've been in the communication, being a great communicator. I think maybe my suggestion would be is let Mike put something together, what Mike would think, and you hit some good points, the good points being that 99% of the people in this town, and even maybe more, probably don't get on the website and start looking and seeing how people voted and that type of thing. And probably nobody in this room, and you're here and you're a lot more interested than most people, but you probably never got on there and looked either. So you're exactly right when you say, this is kind of to inform people out there who never come to a meeting, kind of let them know what's going on. And I think you're a good example of what should go on there, because it's your profession, really.
Thank you. Well, what we could do is, I can give that some thought, as long as council is okay with the possibility of moving away from the council corner. And we don't have another newsletter for 3 more months, so that gives us some time to think about that.
What do you think? What do you think? I mean, in all honesty, I'm asking you, what do you think?
I found that people react more to some of the more in-depth pieces where we were able to really explain some of these votes. A lot of this council corner is, here's everything that was approved in the consent agenda. Here's, the end of the month tax reports were approved, different things like that. That's, while important, and I'm not trying to minimize that, it's stuff that maybe a very small handful of residents would be interested in, as opposed to an additional story highlighting the upcoming cultural arts festival.
I think you hit a home run. I think that's exactly what ought to be on there. Because really what you're talking about, all the votes that we voted on, there's nothing they can do about it anyway. Anyway, it's already been voted on. It's nice to see that how the people voted, which we already know that we don't really care because we don't read it. So let's tell the people what's coming up and what to look forward to.
Okay. Is that awesome? Well, that's all I got then.
Does everybody consensus?
Yeah, everybody have consensus on that one? Looks like that would be unanimous for you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. That brings us to fiscal year 17-18 resurfacing contract selection criteria. Mr. Sadick.
Mr. Mayor, if I could step up here on the podium, I have a couple of things to share with you. One paper. In addition to the selection criteria that we use in addition to the selection criteria that we had to have a plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan to resurface our roadways, what we did this year, we did something different, is we hired a company to go out there and take asphalt pours and simply
They vary in size and thickness and strength. And if you look at it sometimes from the top, it's not that much different. But in order to do a better job, we want to make sure that that roadway will last for many, many years. So we don't want to go out there arbitrarily and make the decision based on a visual inspection. We want to make sure that we do have the sound structure under that. So we went through this exercise. We do have all the cores, and what we would like to do right now is come up with a standard based on all 100 and some cores. And then we're going to go to the neighborhood again and look at those streets and base the selection and prioritize those streets based on the initial rating and district. So this is how we're moving forward with the resurfacing, yearly resurfacing contract.
Questions? Thanks. Great job.
That's the first.
That brings us to two discussion items. Item A, update regarding two initiatives associated with the Monroe Expressway. Item 1, interagency road paving project, followed by item 2, joint town of Indian Trail and Union County small area plan.
Mr. Mayor.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Members of council, it's a pleasure to be before you. Thank you. So staff want to take the opportunity with this special council meeting to update council on two kind of partnership initiatives that the town's engaged in, kind of secondarily related to the Monroe Expressway. And you have to be kind of living in a cave somewhere not to know about the Monroe Expressway and its construction going on now. 20 miles long, 4 to 6 lanes, 8 interchanges, going to be a toll road facility. They're telling us it's going to open for traffic at the end of 2018. We'll see. And so with that, so it's a major project. So one of the things with this project that we're working on with some of our partners in Union County is the naming of secondary streets that are being created or impacted as a result of the expressway project. So countywide, what you're seeing is 32 roads, or kind of secondary local roads, are going to be required to be named or renamed. And really they fall into 3 categories. One is an extension or a reorientation of an existing road. 2 is an existing road that's actually being divided by the expressway itself. And so you're cutting through an existing road, you can't give the same name on either side, so you have to come up with a new name for one section. Or the obvious is either they're creating some new roads, and so we need to give them names as well. So we've created this partnership with our 5 other local governments in Union County that are impacted by this. And our primary goal is to do is coordination. We didn't want all the municipalities in the county going out and naming the roads independently and on their own timetable using their own process. We want to come together and come up with a nice coordinated systemic process together. So we're working with the following municipalities in the county with this. Our other goal is public engagement, and that is to, one, notify the citizens that this project is going on, but also in some cases get their feedback on suggested road names, and maybe support the ones that may come out of the process or suggest some for us to consider. And so with that public engagement, we're going to begin that coming up in September. We will mail notices, the individual municipalities have agreed to mail notices to properties that are directly affected by the road changes in their communities. We're going to hold 3 community meetings throughout the county in the area. We're also going to work, at least with Indian Trail, we're going to work with Mike Parkson using the various social media tools and websites that we have to post information and get attention on this. We'll ultimately hold a public hearing here with the town council, because ultimately the final decision on these names will rest with the local governments. And there's going to need to be some coordination, because as you'll see in some examples I'm going to share, road changes occur through multiple jurisdictions. And the goal, and it's an ambitious one, is to have this process concluded by the end of 2017. We'll see. Aim high. All right. So all right, I've gone through all the kind of the snoozer material here. I'm probably wondering, well, what roads are there? What are we looking at? So let's kind of talk a little bit about that. So again, we talked about 32 roads in total countywide requiring some sort of naming action to be done. Well, Indian Trail, we kind of fared pretty well. We only have around 3 or 4, depending on how you want to count. So the first one we have is near Old Hickory Business Park, and that's Oscar Robinson Road. And it's, the communities involved are Indian Trail and Union County. The shaded areas are in the town, the clear aerial areas in the county. In our additional recommendation, the way Oscar Robinson, or the way this new section in red, when you see the red font, that's the new roadway. The way that section is being traversed is we're recommending just continuing the existing name of Oscar Robinson Road because it'll eventually tee into Oak Springs, which runs between Stallings and Town of Indian Trail. So the first one out of the gate, we get an easy one. The next one is Service Road, what they're calling Service Road 5 and Poplin Road. And if you're a resident of Bonne Terre, you know all about Service Road number 5 because that's what's coming off of Saratoga and it's replaced in essence the Secret Shortcut. What used to be you coming on Secret Shortcut to enter your community. Now you're using what DOT refers to as SR5. And so what you're seeing is the creation of this new service road running through parallel, to Secret Shortcut. And then it kind of curves around into, eventually in tying directly into what is now Poplin Road. And so that's a road that's actually going to need a new name, and that's the one we'll be spending some time trying to come up with an appropriate name for that. One of the things that we've kind of internally committed to, or at least we've talked about at least internally as staff, is not wanting to use terminology like frontage road, Secret Shortcut frontage road, or service road, or access road. We don't think that helps give any kind of identity. It's kind of a stale term. It's not one that's used locally, so we're going to kind of stay away from those, even though that would be the low-hanging fruit, if you will, to name. So we are kind of going to reach out to the historical society, see if there's any just general names in the area that have local context. We've been kind of bouncing around some equestrian type names that, since Bonne Terre is built upon an equestrian theme, that might be some good possibilities, and I can certainly share a couple if you have any interest in hearing. Yes, sir.
Ross, is there any revenue benefits to naming a road, such as if we name a road Walmart Way, would there be any benefits?
Corporate sponsorship.
Corporate sponsorship. Didn't Google or take over a town for something like that?
I'm saying for corporate sponsorship, can we do that?
I don't have the.
Have you thought about doing something like that?
So basically auctioning off the name, selling naming rights of a given street. I don't, as part of the process, the 6 communities you saw earlier, we have not discussed the selling naming rights to the signage. To some extent, to drill down to it, we want the name. Ideally, we want the name to have some local context and some community value, some community value and buy-in, and that's why we're kind of going through this process. If that's something all of the affected local governments wanted us to research and pursue it, or to look into like a naming rights type process, I mean, we could certainly work with council to see what that looked like. But as you can see, for like a given road like that, you're working with the town of Henby Bridge, Indian Trail, and Union County, and so it would have to be something that all 3 government agencies or organizations agree, we're in agreement on, and that's just be aware.
Well, it's a shot. It's a try. Because, Walmart's been in our community, 10 years or so? And I just picked them out because everyone's in Indian Trail, most everyone has shopped at Walmart. And I don't think anyone would be offended if we had Walmart Way. And if it's going to give us any kind of revenue, then why not? Okay.
Rox, I don't believe you can do that. Even if you could do that, I think you'd create chaos. And the reason I say that is, are you gonna give it to the highest bidder? And I really don't know why we're talking about it, but are you gonna give it to the highest bidder, regardless of what the name is, or how do you set the rules up? If somebody wants to name it,
That's why
yeah, I won't go there, but something crazy.
We're not
just
turning this into a debate.
Okay.
Rox,
I didn't mean to- I
Okay,
didn't-
so what we're doing tonight is just to give you,
Right.
staff saw an opportunity to give you an early update. That's all we're trying to do tonight. We can carry, this can be carried over at certainly to a later time, so.
You did mention public hearing.
And there will be public hearings, so. Moving on. The other is, the next road section is what they're referring to as Y203 and Poplar Road. And this is in essence, is simply the red being the extension of Poplar Road into Unionville Union Trail Road. And again, that's similar to Oscar Robinson. We're thinking that's going to be a low-hanging fruit, calling that is renaming or extending Poplar Road. So in whole, at 32 changes, the Union Trail fared very well in this process. But we do want to do a good job on the roads that we do parking. Okay, so I'm going to move along. The next initiative we want to talk to you about, this should be one that the council members are familiar with, and that is the Monroe Expressway Corridor Study, or Seacrest Shortcut Small Area Plan. I don't think we haven't finalized the name on that just quite yet. The last time we talked to you about this was during the budget retreat this year. Again, I don't have to sell you on the monumental impacts that the expressway is having on the physical form of this area of Union County, but also the changing in traffic, travel patterns and whatnot. So the town and Union County have partnered to do a corridor study on this area, not only on the road itself, in the sections within the Indian Trail area, but the intersections, and looking at potential future land use for the area, transportation, and economic development opportunities. We have, working through the Union County's procurement process, gone through an RFQ process, selected a preferred consultant team, and they're in the process of working on a scope of work and budget. This will come back to the council in the way for a final decision. We have an interlocal agreement with Union County, which will kind of solidify the partnership relationship with Union County, with scope of work and the financial commitment. We don't have final numbers right now, but just kind of early preliminary numbers that are coming, that we're feeling with the consultant team, is that coming in kind of at or around the budget we wanted to be at. And the town's commitment will be around probably $15,000. That's not a final number, but I'm just giving you an order of magnitude. So, but that's within the numbers that we've previously discussed, and it's just the town's portion. So I just want to give you that update since we had some information to share. This will come back later on to council when it's ready. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Thank you, Rob. That brings us to park and recreation opportunities. Wow.
Water on the water. So, Mr. Mayor's Council, thank you again for entertaining me and allowing me to talk about roads, and now we're going to talk about parks. So, most of you may recall that we as being the town, there we go. The town engaged in and developed a Parks and Recreation Master Plan back in 2010. I don't think anyone, I might be wrong, forgive me if I am, but very few of you were on council when that was, if any, were on council when that plan was adopted. But in essence, what it is, it comprehensively examined all the parks and recreation needs for the community. At the time, we didn't have any parks facilities at all. And so it looked at big regional parks, like Crooked Creek Park, the needs for regional parks, neighborhood parks, trails, greenways, and et cetera. It really looked at all of our needs comprehensively and came up with a 10-year vision. And as you know, council at its previous meeting approved an update to this study that's going to be getting underway very soon. So as I mentioned, the plan covered a wide assortment of recreation needs for Indian Trail. And one area in particular it focused on was proposed neighborhood parks. And these are the kind of parks that many of us maybe grew up having near our homes. These are the small little parks that you might be able to walk to or bike to or get to for a short car ride. And they don't have maybe necessarily the whiz-bang improvements like this fantastic splash pad or this big, baseball field, but maybe it has, smaller, more modest improvements that just, meet your everyday needs for having fun and spending quality time with your family. And so these are the kind of parks that we feel, this is a partnership with, it's been, kind of organized by Mr. Sadik and with the planning department, engineering department, and the parks and recreation department to really look into and drill down into the proposed neighborhood parking for the community, because we feel that this is a park type, if you will, that hasn't really been addressed very well in the past 7 or 8 years since the plan was adopted. So, maps. So, this was in your packet, and I've asked Kathy to go ahead and hand out hard copies of this. One of the things we wanted to do, and as I suspected, the map didn't show too terribly well in the PowerPoint. So one of the things that we wanted to do with the Parks Department and Engineering is to look at some new opportunities for providing local neighborhood park opportunities within the new trail, and not only looking at using existing facilities that the town already has or upcoming planned facilities that are in the pipeline, but also looking at some other non-traditional approaches to kind of helping meet these needs. So one of the first things we wanted to talk about was really some of the existing property that we already have within the town that we think might potentially serve as valuable parkland. So, and some of you may not even be aware that we have this property in the town and in the town's ownership, but I'm going to step away. I don't have to be tethered to the mic, so I can kind of just step away here. For example, there's an 1.5 acre property on Old Monroe Road at the intersection of Chestnut Road. And you may have seen this as you drive by the communities. We have a little banner display there. Working with the Parks Department and internally, that may serve as a good, nice, modest little park site opportunity for us. Another opportunity site that again is already in the ownership of the town is on Wesley Chapel Road at the entrance to the Holly Park neighborhood. It's about a 1.3 acre site, which in this, I'm sorry, it does not show us well. Right here in the blue, and it's right on the corner of Wesley Chapel and Treeside Drive, I believe. And it's a wonderful opportunity for a neighborhood park for that area. And so again, it's an existing opportunity that exists today that could be we can take advantage of. We also have, and again, some of you may not be familiar, the town was given as part of the Sagecroft development on Old Monroe Road. The town was given 13 acres for parkland on Old Monroe, kind of near the intersection of Radier Road, but on the opposite side of the street. And so there is right here, if you can see it in blue here. And so we have 13 acres there, and its intended purpose when it was given to the town was to be a potential future park site. And one of the exciting opportunities that may come up in the future is at the next council meeting there'll be a proposal, a rezoning proposal for that could support a potential future neighborhood. And speaking with the developer of that property, the way the road would come into the property, into their own development site, it would actually provide direct access to these 13 acres, and just provide a really good opportunity for access that the town wouldn't have to construct. And again, there's other considerations when we look at rezoning, and it's not strictly it's a big analysis on behalf of council, but it's just something good to be aware of. That there could be an opportunity. One of the things you also may be familiar with, and it didn't come up on this map, but the town is a partner with the CRTDO on a Highway 74 sidewalk and trail and greenway project that's going to lead to Crooked Creek Park. And so, again, the idea is that we're going to have connectivity. What we're trying to do is connect people to our destination, and do so in a safe and enjoyable manner. And so that's another opportunity that's going to be coming up in the next couple of years to be a great recreation amenity, and again tying in back to that master plan. One of the things, so that's kind of a broad synopsis of things that are on the ground kind of happening today or in the near term. But there's also, one of the things we've been doing is working as developers come into our office recently, trying to explain to us potential projects they'd like to bring to Indian Trail, we've been asking them if they have any interest in dedicating a parkland to the town, if their projects were to move forward. And what we found is actually surprisingly they've been very receptive to that they would be willing to consider donating. And no project is the same, but it could be 1, 2, 3 acres plus or minus, maybe more, maybe less. But provides a really good opportunity for that neighborhood parkland and puts it land in the area immediately where there are people living and would walk to or bike to the facility. And so, again, these are just conversations we've been having. There's no commitments. There's nothing definitive there. But these are just discussions we've had, which are, but we've received very positive feedback from them. But so just to kind of give you a geographical representation of these sites. One actually is, I'll start off with a known entity, and that is the Christmark neighborhood. Many of you know that there is a multifamily component to that. It's already, they're already entitled to build 150 apartment units. There is some interest by the owner to go ahead and engage that project, and so as part of that, we pitched the idea about parkland donation, and they were actually very receptive to it. And that would just be a fantastic opportunity to put public parkland in the middle where a large population exists. And so that's one opportunity. The next, and this is more of a potential site, but there's a large piece of property around 100 acres directly off of the new frontage road that I mentioned that we're not going to call a frontage road, but except for what I just did. And so, but it's a site that the property owners approached us a couple times about building a neighborhood, and there'd be usually an office or light industrial component on the other side, so it's a shortcut. So it's a big project. It's a big site. We've had the exact same conversation. Again, very receptive to dedicating parkland. Mr. Sadik discussed the Sun Valley Marketplace project, and that's a project the council is well familiar with. We've had the same conversation, same positive reception about doing developing some parkland and also possibly even a trail dedication for public use and access. Circling back to that 13 acres that I kind of started off with early, the Sagecroft project, which is how we got the 13 acres. There is, as part of that project, there's a town-owned community that's entitled, and as they are coming up with their design plans, they're realizing that some of the parkland we have would be advantageous for them to use in their development, and they have other land that they think would be advantageous for us to use as parkland, and kind of doing a land swap and actually giving us land that's more visible to Old Monroe. And so we're exploring those opportunities and working with legal counsel as well. So we just want to let you know that we think that the neighborhood park concept is a valuable one for Indian Trail. That's why it's solidified in the master plan. We think there's some good opportunities using existing facilities and proposed facilities or potential partnerships with the development community. And we wanted to take an opportunity to share this with you. And Jay, I think Jay's kicked off recently the master plan update, which is going to tie right into this concept and will be a good complement for it.
This 16.2 acres for Christmark there,
Yes.
wasn't that originally part of the plan to have a park there? Because they donated the property for the fire department.
If you mean Montero, the fire department?
I have it on somewhere on the map at home. It goes way back.
Okay, now I have the original. There is a lot of land in Christmark that's set aside for common area, open space, and then you see like they've got what, 2 pool facilities and a major amenity tennis court facility, and then some areas that are more limited improvements for soccer fields. And so there are quite a few park-like amenity centers within Christmark that I'm familiar with, and we could certainly.
This was across Monroe on the other side of the fire department. Just
I'd be happy, yeah, we'd be happy to sit down and look at that plan. It goes back to the late '90s, early 2000s, and so, I'm, I know. But yeah, we'd be happy to look at that with you.